Hello, everyone. I'm glad to kickstart this webinar. We're in very good company. I can see we have already some people joining us. We're together for a good 45 minutes, so I know there'll be tons of things to say about AI, what it can do to HR, etc. We'll just wait a tiny bit more for people to join in. My name is Julie Esler. I'm the head of marketing at 365 Talents. I've been talking to HR and how they use AI for a solid 5 years now, and I am delighted to be with Loïc Michel. Well, maybe Loïc, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. So I am Loïc. I am the CEO and co-founder at 365 Talents. And I like to present myself as a curious engineer, curious consultant turned into the curiosity of talent management entrepreneurship. So I've been working and launching businesses in the HR tech for 10 years now. And particularly interested in how AI can be leveraged to transform the experience at work. And I know that's an area where Pamela is having lots of fun as well. So Pamela, do you want to introduce yourself?
I do. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Pamela Stroko, and I'm an industry thought leader in HCM, and I also have an analyst affiliation with 360 Insight as a principal and director in the HCM space. And as Loic mentioned, I've been working in this space for a number of years, started out as a practitioner, then turned analyst, consultant, and technology expert in HCM. And I'm thrilled to be here today because we're all hearing about AI all the time, it seems. You can't open up your email without seeing 3 things or 4 things or 5 things about AI that's new. But the market has very different views on what's going on, and there are different rates of adoption. So we want to talk about that with you and give you some great ideas and share with you what would be important for your organization. So Julie, back to you.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to kickstart with those 2 key figures because we've always been really keen about skills management and how we have that, the skills management that we have that we used to have is not working anymore, and we know there's AI powered. And I have 2 key figures in there that I think I would like your reactions on it. Why, those 74% of employees that feel unprepared for the skills needed in the next 5 years. And I think with AI, it's even more relevant. And that 68% of CEOs see talent development as the top priorities. Those are figures I remember from Gartner. But well, maybe Pam, do you want to kickstart on that and what you think about those figures?
I do. And I particularly like the 68% of CEOs see talent development as a top priority. And the reason that is so important is we know people leave when there's no opportunity to grow in an organization, when they can't develop, when they can't see a career path ahead of them. And so the urgency is not just about how do we adopt AI and how do we do that faster and how does that help us, but really recognizing not doing anything will cause a whole lot of bad things to happen, like people become disengaged and disenfranchised and they start looking for jobs. And one of the crazy things, and this came out in a monster study earlier this year, they found that 93% of people said that they either are going to look for a job or intended to look for a job this year. And a lot of the reason why had to do with, I'm not prepared, I don't have the right skills, I'd like to learn more, I'd like to develop, I'd like to have new career opportunities. And so you ignore this at your peril. And I think it's really important for organizations to understand that now's the time to really act and to start building your skills-based organization, to start developing people, to start giving people career opportunity.
And maybe if I can just react on that, I like to share to Julie and to Pamela that we've all seen these numbers for ages. And the new thing which is coming in is definitely AI and a new kind of AI. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But agentic AI for me is a really transformative technology. And what was important in terms of employee perception on where they can go and how they can move their career around, and what was important about the CEO's perceptions is emphasized by this agentic AI thing, which is coming in, because the numbers should be even higher than what we see now. Everyone, I should say 100%, 100%. I think in 1 year from now, we will see these numbers. So maybe in the next version of this webinar, we will say 100%, 100%, because everyone is obviously at least or questioned about the future of its work. And every leader in any organization needs to be conscious that there is a big impact that is coming in. And maybe just one final word on at 365 Talents, we are the European leader in talent experience and skills intelligence. And we leverage AI and all types of AI to create a common language around skills in large organization, to personalize the employee experience, to simplify the life of HR on an everyday basis. So ranging from use case from talent marketplace to workforce planning, going through career development. Definitely, we are in that moment where everything is changing so fast. It's really challenging for employees, really challenging for HR leaders, really challenging for leaders globally speaking, and really challenging for us as a tech company to cope, investing, and keep pushing hard with our customers. So that's a really interesting momentum we're in, definitely.
Yeah. And that leads us to really all part one to me. It's, well, where we are at the moment, the AI in the market. And there's so much said about AI that I think we just need to define a tiny bit the keywords, because I think we generally speak about AI, but in fact AI existed for ages. But I think the epiphany for HR really happened with Gen AI, and now we have the agentic AI that Loic just touched based on. So, Loic, do you want to take those key elements and try to define what that means and where we are at the moment?
Yes, sure. And a tiny disclaimer, it's not going to be a scientific presentation, all right? So we at 365 Talents have been an AI company for HR since ignition. So we like to say we have an AI DNA, an AI product, and an AI roadmap. So we've been embracing all types of AI from day one, which was 2016, 2017 for our company when I created the company with my two co-founders. And at that time, we were talking about NLP, machine learning, and neural networks. We were leveraging this technology to grab a lot of data and to create a common language around skills. We were working on vectorialization of multidimensional version of skills and how to use the context to match different version of the same skills, saying that a different word can be really close to another word, so probably meaning something close together. Plus, we were using neural networks and machine learning algorithm to do matching between employees and opportunities, between employees and jobs, between employees and learning opportunities, between employees and other employee for coaching or mentoring. So ML, neural networks, NLP were the technology we were using. 2 years ago, boom, the LLMs come in, Gen AI came in, and we definitely needed to embrace that. So we just enriched some capabilities in our product and created new capabilities like being able to have some job description generation, skills definition generation, to have some skills and job benchmarks from the outside world within the organization. But there were only additional features or enriched features. Agentic AI is the next big thing. because it's reinventing the entire UX and the entire way we do things on a product or on a job. So for me, it's not adding value to some existing features or technologies. It's creating a new way of getting results, leveraging technology. So we at 365 Talents are just mapping in our product, in our vision, per persona, per users in our platform, employees, HR, managers, what are the jobs to be done? And once you map that, you know what part of these jobs that usually our users are doing on our platform can be boosted by agentic AI, by an agent that will just make something faster and will get an outcome faster. And the big difference with the other AI types that we used to work with is the notion of autonomous orchestration. So the agents are capable of leveraging all the different models and treatments that they can identify to answer to a particular need. So you don't need to navigate in a UX. You just ask what you want to get as a result, and the agent is capable of doing that. So that's amazing. And we'll talk about that in a minute again, because that's a real transformation. But for me, that's important to see that we are in a new era now, and it's going so fast. It's really impressive.
And Pamela, on your side, given your high view on the market, what do you feel about this transformation of AI, and what do you make of these?
Well, a couple things about the market and AI, just to give you a sense of, the market has a lot going on, and you can read one study that says 53% of organizations have some AI in HR, and then you read another study that says, well, less than 4% of companies actually have AI across the organization, across what used to be silos. So the market has a lot of examples for how AI is working or not. What I can say, particularly about agentic AI, is we are in a talent economy, not just this year or next year, but really for about the next 20 years. That doing what we have always done will not help us grow organizations, will not help us meet market demand, will not help us hire and retain the best people. And so AI comes along and says, I can help you be more personal. I can help you get work done more efficiently. I can help you be more productive. I can help you learn and grow faster. And people are really interested in that. And also having that capability with agentic AI. And by the way, I have to say, I am such a convert. Once I started using agentic AI, once I started using AI, it's like, where have you been all my life? It's so amazing because I can do research faster, and I can comb through things faster looking for data, and it helps organizations make sense of data. So AI is definitely where the market is going, and the question for every company is, how are we going to use AI to unlock the potential of our people and unlock the growth in this organization?
Yeah. And I think we have some examples. If I jump on the next slide, we have one example of using AI at a railway network back in France. But it's one of the examples that maybe Loic, you want to tell that story. I know it's quite impressive because of the numbers, but that's the sheer volume that AI can really master.
Yeah, and I think this is exactly this, and that's the first question every organization interested into the impact of AI should be asking itself. Same with the skills-based organization approach that everyone is targeting. Why? Why should I do that? Why would I leverage AI to turn into a skills-based organization, and why should I turn into a skills-based organization anyway? Usually the answer is because I have a real business needs. I have real business needs, and I have someone in one of the business that is coming to me and asking me for an HR answer to a business challenge. Here, the business challenge as SNCF is really simple. They are having an open competitive market now. Before they were like the only player in the country and in Europe, and now they are having some competition. So their resources, the budgets are getting constrained. They have a new business model to find, so they need to find economies. They need to save money. And to do that, the answer of the CHRO was, let's turn into a skills-based organization and leverage AI to have a solution to do that. And with really concrete ROI, they can just present some like concrete results to the board. And I like to just emphasize 2 return on investment figures they share. On the 150,000 employees that are part of the organization, they had 1,000+ employees that were on the bench with no mission, and they were struggling finding the good opportunity for these persons. Because they turned into a skills-based approach for talent mobility, they were able to save or to find new positions to these 1,200 people. So they basically put 1,000+ employee back in the driving seat of their career, and they know how much it costs to have someone on the bench. And if you multiply like the average salary plus 1,000, then you are not far from 100 million of savings. And at the same time, they reduced external resource staffing. So they just kept investing on internal resource and skills instead of looking for external talent for short-term assignments, and they reduced it from 400 million per year to 300 million per year. So they save 100 million euros with this use case only. So they had a vision that AI should help them turn into a skills-based organization to help them generate some savings in that concrete example, and they did by really large numbers.
Yeah, and it's obviously one example with large numbers, but you have other stories where it's a different ball game. And I think I'm just moving on to the next slide, but it's also the power of AI lies in itself that it's completely adaptive, because you'll be able to tailor to every organization. So SNCF is obviously a big, it's a massive corporation. It's 5 different entities. It's a hornet's nest in terms of alignment of for everything. But I think you do have some other examples, and I know you have them in the back of your pocket, and same probably for Pamela. But when we comes to adaptive, and I think you can keep your examples, I want to just take a step back again and ask, why that adaptive word is so important to both of you, because I know when we prepared the webinar, it was something that you both really aligned. So why this is super important, and I think it's I'm just putting up there, it's the Banny world, right? Well, maybe I know Pamela, you like the new Banny world. It's from VUCA to Banny. Do you want to give us a little explanation?
I think the Banny world is what every organization is dealing with in one way or another. And let's just go through each of these, because I think it's important to understand what it means and what an organization's response could be. So let's start out with brittleness. Well, when you think about brittle, you think about things that are unmovable. They're very hard to move, or that it's so brittle it could break. Well, what does brittle look like in an organization? And to me, a great example of brittle is that you only have one way to fill a job. That you say, we have jobs, and we go to the market or we go internally and we try to fill those jobs. And so your organization has one way of getting work done, which is we post jobs, people apply or not, and we offer the job or not, and that's how it works. It's just kind of this really linear process. But in a banny world where you have to deal with change and complexity, and you talk about the need now is to be adaptive, you can no longer afford to be brittle. The answer to brittleness is, how do you become flexible? How do you create the ability to respond to market changes? So you have to think about, well, what's a job structure? We're not filling roles anymore. We're looking at what are the jobs and what's the work that has to be done in order to deliver on the company's mission, on the company's goals, on the company's growth and market aspirations. And so you say, like, what's the work? How is the work going to get done? And how do we deliver the work? And that's where you get into the discussion of, do we have a skills-based organization? Can we say, this is what the work is? And then we have to ask ourselves, well, what are the skills that people need in order to deliver that work? And so all of a sudden, it's not about opening, fill a job. It's about flexibility. It's about skills. It's about identifying the work. It's about saying that we can get this work done in a lot of different ways. It could be with full-time people, could be with contract people, could be fractional roles, could be working hybrid, it could be gig work. And in an adaptive world, that's what you need to be able to do. In fact, just a few years back, Maura O'Gean wrote a book called Future 2030. And in chapter 7, which is the best chapter of the whole book, I thought anyway, the book is great, but I love this chapter because he talked about that by 2030, 30% of all the work and all the workers in the world will have to be part of this flexible way of working, that it's about talent movement and talent mobility. It's about creating opportunity for people. It's just not about filling jobs anymore. It's about how we're going to get the work done, and along the way, identify skills and capabilities needed to deliver goals in the organization. So he calls that the digital collaborative economy. And trust me, we are there. And that's why being adaptive is so important. That's why being a skill-based organization is so important. And that adaptiveness and that flexibility is really at the core of what happened in the customer example that Loic just shared with you. So I want to go on to anxious, because anxious probably defines the world today in a lot of ways. And so the antidote to anxiety is really telling the truth and building trust. So what we know is when things are uncertain, people are afraid. Markets hate uncertainty. And if you don't think that's true, watch the stock market, at least in the US. Markets hate uncertainty. People hate uncertainty. And so what we're looking for is clarity. You know, if you think about how you deal with anxiety, you want to be clear about, well, what is it we're dealing with? Do we have strategies? Are you communicating with your people? Do people understand where the organization's going, how they can participate, how they can connect, how they can make a difference? And if you're a team leader, if you're a manager, if you're a peer in an organization, which pretty much should cover just about everybody, one of the things you want to do on an individual basis is help people understand how they connect with the work of the company or the organization. That helps a lot to quell anxiety. When people can see how they connect, they're like, oh, I get it. I see where I fit. Now let's go on to non-linearity. So non-linearity is about, well, let me just step back a minute. People love linearity because they believe it to be predictable. Non-linearity, therefore, says, well, it's not predictable. And in a not predictable world, what we say is you have to have the capacity and the skills in order to be able to respond. Well, I think dealing with non-linearity comes out to two things. I think it's about organization capability and capacity. Because what that says is, do we have, thinking about capability, do we have the skills necessary, the skills, the tools, the technology, the people necessary strategy and win in the marketplace? And so that's a capability issue. Then if you say, well, we do or we don't, you have to deal with capacity. Well, if we don't How are we going to get there? And that's where you talk about upskilling. That's where you talk about learning. That's where people have career opportunity. That's where you look at talent mobility across the organization. But the antidote to dealing with what's nonlinear is building capability so you're ready, and building capacity so you can execute your organization's strategy, your people's strategies, your goals, and being able to win in the marketplace by doing that. And I think that that's so critical because, you know, if you think about, you're not developing skills for skills' sake here, you're actually preparing people in the organization to respond to the volatility that we see in the marketplace. And then lastly, my personal favorite, managing incomprehensible. How do we manage incomprehensibility, if that actually makes any sense? And so incomprehensible is, how do you approach something that you don't understand? And I would say in any market, in any company, there are things that every day people may not understand as fully as they need to. So incomprehensible, how you deal with it is you have to start making sense out of what's happening. What is happening? Be clear about it. What's the impact of what's happening? How is that going to affect us? And what do we think is going on and why? I mean, really dissect this, really pull this apart. And I call that kind of like the search for meaning is the antidote to incomprehensibility. And that meaning is both collective in an organization and personal. It's, what does it mean to each individual? What does it mean to a department? What does it mean to the company as a whole? And as you're dissecting things and you're looking for meaning and you're saying, well, how can we be, if this is what's going on, and this is how we understand the world to be, and we've kind of unpacked that incomprehensibility that we didn't understand, you have to ask some fundamental questions like, if this is what's going on, how can technology help us? How can leaders adapt to support their people? How can people in the organization learn and develop and grow and upskill so they're better prepared for what's ahead? You know, there's been a lot written in the market today about agility and people's agility approach. And agility can be really simple. It's, do you have the capacity to adapt to things as they come in the market, as they come at you, as they come to your organization? And that capacity is about developing these capabilities around responding, around finding meaning, around understanding what's going on, around skilling and upskilling and preparing people. And fundamentally, you know, you have to really address, how do we develop people continuously? That's what adaptive is about. It's about, how do we adapt on a daily basis to prepare people for what's ahead?
Yeah, and that's a really good transition, I think, to well, to us. That's why we well, Loic coined the term of adaptive talent intelligence, and I think you
Yes.
really sprinkled it out on the explanation of what Benny means. The what's interesting, it's the response, in fact, what people can do. And I'm just moving ahead because you've just highlighted, I think, complexity, urgency, and stress. And Loic, maybe you want to take over, because I think there are two ways of dealing with all of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Pam, you just shared all the different approaches and how to react and how now to react to this bunny world. But we've seen two ways to handle this complexity, this urgency, and the stress that is generated. And that's even an animal thing, like under stress, some of us and some of the animals, we just stay fixed, stop moving. They won't, you know, they will stick to what they know. They won't explore, they won't adapt. They will say, okay, let's stick to this plan. We don't know if it's the good one, but that's the one we know. So let's do it. So that's not being really adaptive. The other way around is to adapt, to take action, to move, and to like leverage this stress situation, to test new ideas, to be basically more agile and more adaptive. And we like to say that 5 years ago, you could not be fired if you were launching and investing on a big HR solution or process, and the board was paying you for that. You can be fired for that because it's so unpredictable that
Mm-hmm.
you don't know that this 5 years long investment is the good option. So it's probably better test different routes, different paths, different things. And that's definitely the definition of what is adaptive talent intelligence, is being able to adapt your skills and job framework systems to a moving environment, an internal organization. So there is no one size fits all. You cannot believe that your skills framework and job architecture or task intelligence today will be the same in a few years, even in a few months, even in a few weeks. So
Yeah.
you need to adapt to that. You need to adapt and test new use cases. You know, internal talent mobility was maybe a key use case for you as an agile organization 5 years from now. Maybe now you have other use cases you want to test, you want to iterate. Maybe it's coaching, mentoring, maybe it's short-term assignments. And you talked about this fluid workforce organization, Pamela. It's exactly that. So who knows what is the best use case for you as an HR leader and for your company in the next 6 months or early next year? It's hard to know because you don't know in which situation your company and your business will be at that time. So you need to be able to adapt to these use cases. You need to be able to adapt your system to your a moving IT and tech ecosystem. So integration is at the center of what you need to explore. You need to adapt to these different types of AI that we mentioned. Definitely say that AI is adaptive by nature. You know, it's
Yeah,
an
it is.
adaptive thing. And so if you don't adapt to this adaptive thing, you will be stuck in one seat and the world will keep moving while you won't and your organization won't either. And finally, you need to adapt to new methodologies. You talked about a lot about agility, Pamela. Agile project management has been a trend for 20 years, maybe. It's still a useful approach to test new ideas, to test new use cases, to test new systems, to test new skills and job frameworks or approaches. So definitely being able to adapt different things, your organizations, your use cases, your technology, your methodology is the good answer for this complexity that you were describing, Pamela. Definitely.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to highlight for our audience is, how do you know you're working adaptive, or what are some of the differences? And here's just a quick way to think about it. Most of our organizational life, most of people's working lives was spent in a model of stimulus response. We do this and this happens, or we want to get here, so we do this. So there's some like one-on-one relationship, and there's some stimulus response going on. When you think about adaptive, here's how I look at it, that you have to look at your organization, your people, your goals, your market strategy over the arc of time. It's not like we did this and this happens tomorrow, but we want to go here. And over the arc of time, a lot of things will happen. We will grow, we'll need to hire people, we'll need to develop those people. And so you're not looking for the immediate response, you're looking at over the arc of time. How do we make the right choices, the right decisions? How do we develop the right skills? And how do we put people in the right roles? So by the time you look at that arc and say, here's where we wanted to go, you have made at every decision point, and you've kind of created an adapted response that helps you get to the next stage, helps you get to the next thing that you want, or the next level. And people that can adapt don't just do one thing. They look at, here I am today, and that 6 months from now, I'm going to be in a totally different place. And there are maybe 1,000 decisions I'll make that'll get me to that place. But each decision is about responding and connecting to a moment in time and making choices.
Yeah. And by making choices. I think HR teams will have to make the choice to join the AI revolution. And what do you think, Pam, that how HR will get moving? What will make them go faster, and what will hold them back? I think that's a good question, on the AI race for HR.
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking about preparing our discussion for this morning, Julie asked me, what are the uncomfortable truths for HR in transforming to a skills-based organization? And they are uncomfortable truths, and they're probably things you don't want to hear, but they're real, and so I'm going to mention them. I think the first thing is that organizational shift of any kind, of any transformation, takes time, and you have to pay attention to culture and the ability to manage change. Now, I'm not talking about you need to implement an office of change management and have all these people going around and, have project sheets about how things are changing. I'm talking about accounting for culture. How do you get things done in your company? What are your values? What do you believe? How do you treat people? How do you want to grow? How do you attract people to your company? So what makes your organization uniquely you? And then when you do go through a transformation, like becoming a skills-based organization, you do it in the context of that culture. And you explain things to people in the context of that culture, and you connect with them, and you communicate with them, and you help them grow, you mentor, you develop, give them opportunities. So those things take time, and it is going to take time. The other thing that is maybe a little uncomfortable for some organizations is becoming a skills-based organization is not an HR problem to solve. Trust me on this. It is not an HR problem to solve. It is about the kind of company you want to become. And HR can provide tools and expertise and support, but going through that transformation is looking at the entire organization and say things like, how will we operate? How will people develop? How do you do upskilling? What does that look like for us? And being able to look at the solution across the organization as opposed to here is something HR has to implement.
Yeah, and thinking of the what HR has to implement, I maybe Loic, you want to give a quick focus on AI and agentic AI. What would you need to implement, and do you have maybe some examples that you could, I think the audience would take and try to step up and use those agents.
Yeah, as we said earlier, the new thing with agentic AI is the autonomous orchestration. That basically you can adapt to not any, but lots of use cases or tasks you would like to parallelize or boost. So the vision we have at 365 Talents is that we want to make our users gain efficiency. So either it's the employee, either it's the HR, or either it's the manager. Efficiency gain for an HR solution are mostly dedicated to managers and to HRs. The employee has another job to do. The HR leader or HR is dedicated to HR activities, and so efficiency can be really high in this in this scope. And the managers, they have, let's say, 30% of their time, which is dedicated to managing and HR activities. So that's where we focus our energy and our agents. Then we mapped different use cases, as I said, different jobs to be done, and then we are pushing to the market different types of agents for talent management. So an agent for skills inference, for resume analysis, for career advisor, for talent screening, for benchmarks and future skills analysis. And my preferred one is my favorite is skills and job builder. So being able to create a skills and job architecture in a few clicks with a few Q&A and based on your own internal data, based on your own job description, existing pieces of skills framework that you have, but you are not happy with the entire structure or architecture. We build an agent where you can just generate it in a few days, while you used to spend 6 months to generate a skills and job architecture before. With an AI-powered solution that we provide at 365 Talents, you can generate this skills and job architecture in a few weeks. But when we push that to the agentic world, you can do this in a few days. So basically, we are capable of reducing time by 6% from 6 months to a few days. So that's the main area of improvement and a massive impact of these new technologies in the HR and talent management space in particular.
Yeah, and that's pretty impressive. Pamela, do you have other examples or things you want to add on?
I have maybe a little bit of advice and some ideas about how to move forward. So, a lot of organizations are just at the beginning and they're looking at, well, what's AI? What does that mean to us? How does it work? And I think particularly in HR, you have to start out with a fundamental question. And to me, that question is, how can AI change or enhance the employee experience? Because isn't that what it's about? We want to create a better employee experience so you attract great talent, so you develop people, so you can meet the demand of the marketplace and people can grow and have great career opportunities in your company. So you start with, how can AI help us create a better employee experience? And then you're going to have whatever answer. You can actually workshop this in your organization. You're going to have whatever answer you come up with. And then you want to start saying, well, how do we focus on the things that are important to people? So let's take the HR lens and say, well, how do we focus how we use AI in talent acquisition, to hire people, to give people opportunities in the organization. So what's the talent acquisition component? How do we use AI to onboard? Onboard is there's a great opportunity to use AI in onboarding and connect people to the organization early. How do we help people with learning? How do we help people with career management and career pathing? And you can just really go down the list of, what does our talent engine look like, and how do we use AI to create a better talent engine, to create a better employee experience? And I think when you do that, what you're going to find is people are more engaged. People are more connected to their skill development. People are more connected to learning and growth and how they can make a difference. And quite honestly, that's how you will win the future. You're not going to win the future by just doing a whole bunch of traditional things and not looking at how you can use these adaptive technologies, because the future is about adaptive, it's about growth, it's about productivity, it's about speed, it's about managing things when things are a little uncomfortable. And a skills transformation can help you get there. And hopefully, when you think about these things and you say, how do we use AI to create a better employee experience? You can give people a great roadmap on what that looks like for them, what it looks like for your company, and how they can connect with it. So, and by the way, we're going to actually write this up as an article and connect it to this webcast for you. So you kind of have the recipe and the great stories and the great information that you can use as you move forward in your company.
Yeah, thanks. And by the way, I just did put the slide up, but if you want, you have a QR code that you can scan with your phone. If you want to have a strategic consultation with, any further questions you may have, we have some HR, AI experts at 365 Talent that are ready to help. I know time flew by literally because the topic is so we just mentioned with Pam we should do an AI quarterly discussion because
We
I
should.
think the topic is so intense, it's moving so quickly, it's like you need to catch the flow, but it was really fascinating. Any last words, and if you had to summarize in three little things that the audience would start right now, what would it be? Any closing remarks from both of you?
Let's
Yeah,
start with your three things.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So that Pam can can think of hers.
I can start with my three things. Usually, the piece of advice we share with customers or partners is to consider if you are ready to move on three particular area. The first one is, one, do you have a real business challenge to solve? And we cover that. And if no, stop it. Like, keep working on what you do on an everyday basis, and that's fine. But if you have a real business challenge to solve, go for it. And maybe turning into a skills-based organization can help, and AI will help you do so. The second thing is, do you have a governance in place to manage this transformation? If no, you need one. You need to have a vision on how it's going to work. If yes, good, you're good to go. And the third one is, do you have data? And actually, I used to say that 2 years ago. And the more I talk about it, the more I say, maybe I can stop at the first two elements, because the third one is not a requirement anymore, because Gen AI, agentic AI can help you build your data set in a new way that you could not even imagine. And then you just have to adapt to refine this generation to your own environment. But the first draft is available in a few clicks, which is definitely something that was not the case 2 years from now. So, do you have a business challenge to solve? Yes, go ahead. If you have a governance in place, no, you should. And if yes, go ahead, and then you're all set, because technology will help you provide the data, which was the third one.
Nice. Thanks.
And
Thanks so much,
what I
Loic.
would add, oh, excuse me, sorry.
Go ahead, Pamela. I was
I
just
was going to
thinking,
say,
Loic.
what I would add to that is, and this really gets to the do you have a business problem to solve, is yeah, every organization, and you can do this down to the team level, to the individual goal level, to the writ large in the company level. The real question is, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to deliver? Why do we exist? I mean, you don't want to get caught in strategy sessions for months, but you have to say, what are we solving for? And when you say, what are we solving for? And you begin to identify what it is you're trying to do, what success looks like, what you're trying to deliver, it's always really important to have a roadmap on how you're going to get there. And the clarity of the roadmap will determine how successful that transformation can be for you. And the communication that you bring to the organization around that clarity will either engage people quickly or it won't. And so, what you want to do is you want to connect with people, you want to connect them to the work, you want to make sure that they see how they contribute. And that they have clear opportunity in your company, because without those things, you're going to go back to, people are looking to leave, and some of the other data that you see in the market. So it's important to have the roadmap and to understand how you're going to get there, and then to support the organization roadmap that you have selected for how you're going to move forward. And I think it's important that you have conversations with this about this in your organization, just to make sure that everyone's connected with how this is going to move forward. And again, adaptation is about looking at your actions over the arc of time and every day to say, are we one step closer to where we want to be? And then responding to that, adapting to what's next. And I think if you think about your roadmap that way, you are going to move forward every single day.
Yeah, well, that's really good closing last words. So I think we went overboard about 5 minutes, but
Oh Lord,
the audience
sorry.
kept on listening to you because it was really fascinating. So thank you very much, both Loic and Pamela, for all your insights. And obviously, if you want to reconnect with Pamela or ourselves, I know my dear marketing team in the chat will give you some details. You have things to download, but thank you very much for listening. And that will be the end of this webinar. Thank you so much and see you later on.
Thanks
Thank you, everyone.
everybody.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good
Bye.
day. Bye.